lab number 248. In this lab, we'll add push notification capabilities to our mobile application. And first of all, we'll start by opening a browser and navigating to Getting Started page to find out how actually to implement push notifications. We need to go to All Tutorials page, and from there look for push. And we will be interested here in event source push notifications in hybrid application. So we should open two articles, just general push notification in hybrid applications and also the event source one. So this general article push notifications in hybrid application actually display how to set up the push, what should be configured before, and this is really important because mainly we are focusing on Android for now, but if you will do iOS configuration, so you should do it also for iOS project. And for Android, first of all, the first thing that we need to do is to obtain the API key. This is the server key that is needed, and we need to get it from Google Developer Console. So here you should have a Google account to sign in. If you don't have it, please create one. And once you sign in, you need to create a first project if you don't have any. Basically, you can call it whatever. I will call it Hybrid Wallet. So here I have my project created. As you can see, I have now the project ID and the project number. I will need it basically because I will need to put it here within the application descriptor. And now it's the time to create our first API. So we should go to API section and click on APIs. And now from here we are interested in mobile APIs, and we need the cloud messaging for Android. So cloud messaging is the way how actually notifications are sent. It is done by Google Cloud Messaging Service. So we are interested in creating API for it. So we need to enable API here. And then we need to go to credentials and create an API key. And this should be a server key as described in push notification getting started material. So we can call it whatever. I will call it Worklight server, something like WL server. I won't be binding it on specific IP, but you can do it, and in the real time it will protect your additional level of protection. So only specific IP can call within this API key Google push notification service. So for now we'll leave it empty and we'll click create. So here's our API key. And basically we are needed to put it inside our application descriptor. So now it's time to open our development environment, navigate to Hybrid Wallet's Cordova project, and open application descriptor. And then what we can do is we can copy this property. And as you can see, we should put it inside the Android right before the security. Somewhere here. So here we should pass the API key that we just received. And as a sender ID, we should put the project number. So we should remove this one. Go back and go back to home page, and this will be our project number. Of course, you need to use your credentials and your project number and your API key instead of trying to type mine. We can save this file. Next thing that we need to make sure is that our Android emulator support push notifications. So in case you will be testing it on real device, there will be no issues, but in case you will be testing emulator here in this image or on your own machine afterwards, after you will pass the education, you need to know the few things. So all of them described in this article, And first of all, you need to create a Google account in your emulator, and you also need to make sure that you have installed Google Play services, and that your that your image that you're using for emulator supports APIs. So we can check it by opening the terminal and type in Android. Just click the select all. So let's take a look, for example, on this API 22. So the case is that we can install, for example, something like Intel Atom image or 64-bit image to have our emulator working, but it won't support push, it won't support Google Maps and things like that. What we need to set up is Google APIs. This is also an image, and this one is what is used in the current emulator that you can launch by clicking on this icon. So what also we need to do is to make sure that we have Google Play services, and as you can see, we don't have them installed. So you need to click here and click install. Accept the license and click install. That's it, nothing more. Now we can close this SDK manager, we can close the terminal also, and we can launch the Android emulator. Now when we have it running and Google Play services are inside, and this is actually Google APIs, and by the way, it's really easy to check. Just check if you have these maps inside the image. If you don't have, it means 100% that you don't have Google APIs. So what we need to do is to go to settings and add our account here under accounts. Because otherwise, if we don't have here our account specified, we won't receive push, because push is associated with device ID and with account and so on. So we need to add a Google account here. I will use the same one that Google API console is created on, but I mean, you can use any account. It doesn't need to be the same as on the API key. It can be any valid Google account. So just fill the email and your credentials. So afterwards, you need to accept the terms. And we will have our account right here afterwards. So basically that's it for configuration of our emulator, and we can go back to our article. So from a standpoint of basic configuration of the environment, we did what we should do, and next thing is actually the server configuration and the client-side code. So what you need to do is actually described in this event source notification in hybrid apps. We need to define the event source. This should be done on server side in adapter. We need to define a way how to send notification in the server side. We'll add procedure for that. For client side, so we will need to send a token to initialize the push class register the event source. So we will see it's within the app, and when we will subscribe to this event source, we will be able to see our subscription that it's active in the console. And basically, we will not display the received message. I mean, we won't have a code for that. We will simplify the task. And we will try the scenario when the app is turned off and we are sending something from a server. So we can click here on download MobileFirst project to go on GitHub, and this will be the place where we will take the code from. And first we are interested in adapters. So here the concept is pretty similar to what we did in Authentication lab. So we have first of all this push adapter where we performing submission of notification, and here is the place where we are defining the event source. So what we can do is we can copy all of that and pass in our server-side project in our wallet adapter, just somewhere at the bottom, just like that. So this event source is protected with the security test. In our case, the security test, as you remember, is called differently. Security test called Authentication security test, and it's actually we have here XML. In XML, the procedure is protected with it, so we can copy it and pass inside our JS file, replacing this security test that is there. We have onSubscribe and onDevice unsubscribe functions that just doing the login with the information that device is subscribed or unsubscribed. And we have a submit notification one. And what it actually does, it's perform a submission. As you can see, we are pushing it to push adapter, push event source, so we don't have push adapter. We will need to define the name of our wallet adapter. Just like that. Event source is the same. So what's happening? If we have no subscription, then the answer will be no subscription found for user. Otherwise, if subscription exists, we will actually send a notification with user ID that we passed as an input parameter and notification text as we passed as an input parameter to this submit notification. So quite simple. We can save this and close this file, and we also need to open wallet adapter XML to put here a procedure. So the same way they did it here in XML. Submit notification one. And this submit notification will be called outside, so we won't protect it with the security text. So for that, we can look on the example in adapter XML and copy this security text well unprotected. So we will be able to call this submit notification from outside without our security test. And that's it. We can close our XML. And now what we need to actually do is to modify our authentication config. So if you will go back to the root of this project and navigate to server conf authentication config, you will notice that here there is almost the same security test as we defined, but here we should actually have the user and device ID. Both of them are required even if a provision type is none to actually use push notifications. So what we will do, we will change our security test. We had custom security test, as you remember, to mobile security test with the test device ID inside. So for that, we can go back to our server-side project, open conf, authentication config. And I will just pass as an example this information that we got from GitHub. And what we will do is we'll actually replace this security test that we did with the custom parameters that we used before. So the name will be the same, authentication security test. Realm for user will be the same, of realm, and test device ID will be none. So we can now remove our old security test and just stick with this one. Everything else, I mean, authentication, realm, and login module remain the same, no changes, we already did it, and we already configured authentication in the labs before. So in this example, they're using not the adapter-based authentication, but the form-based. So inside apps, hybrid event source, common JS, there is actually push up realm challenge handler JS that does almost the same that we did in authentication lab, but this time within the form-based approach, and we don't need to modify anything. What we need to do is in main.js, actually after notification, you can see that they are defining a couple of functions like is push supported, that checks if push is supported using worklight library, and afterwards there is actually function where using again worklight client push on ready to subscribe. This is the part of API that checks if the device is ready for subscribing. We are defining with register event source callback some token called anyhow my push, for example, and then adapter, name the adapter and name of event source, and there is also a callback function that will be called when notification received in case app is opened, but we won't use this part. And then the last step that we will use is a function looking like this, do subscribe. So what we are doing, we are subscribing for this push event source right here by calling this function, and then they have two callbacks, again success, failure. We can even forget about that. So we can start by defining this val client push register event source callback, and we can open our text editor and then go to Cordova www.js controllers.js, and let's register for push notifications after we are loading the messages inside our for each cycle. So this will happen after we connect it to a server, after we got a list of cards, because probably if we are not able to connect to a server and we are not able to get data, there is no sense in push notifications. So somewhere here we can just register this event source callback. We actually don't need even a function here. So our adapter called wallet adapter. Let's kind of remain the name my push. It seems okay. And then we will need to do a subscription itself. Subscription will look almost the same. We will need to provide just the, this token name, and we can do it right after we registered for event source callback, something like that. We can add additional check in case we will be testing it in the browser not to see error that push is not supported. So just the same way as it does in this example. So the API should be used looking like this, is supported, is push supported, and then we'll check this variable. So let's define it here. Let's call it something like push support. Yeah, we can define it right here. And then the simple if. So if push support equal to true, then we can actually register and subscribe. Else, we will just do a login. Something like push is not supported. And here we can type push supported. Just like that. So now we can actually open the terminal Navigate to a server-side project first, so hybrid wallet server. If you have server started, you can just type mfp push. I don't have it started, so I need to type mfp start, and during the startup it will actually do a push for me. So I need to wait until startup. So now when server started and apps and adapters were pushed, as you can see, we can actually go to Cordova project and type mfp push here. And if we will launch it in a browser, we should get actually the message that push is not supported. So our authentication should still work as it was before. So let's test that. We'll preview it with a simple browser. So we have our authentication window, user password. Let's check a console. And we have a message that push is not supported right here. So now we can actually close this and try on real device. So before doing that, there is one thing we need to check. So in case in the hybrid folder you have only one config XML, it's okay, you can ignore this step. If, like in my case, you have two, you need to open the config XML with uppercase, copy everything that is inside, and then pass in a config XML with the lowercase, just like that. Save this and close this file. And now we can actually go back to terminal, to our hybrid project, and type mfp Cordova run -p Android, which means platform Android. So our application will be built and pushed to Android device that we have here. And we just need to wait until this will happen. So now our application is launching. So we can type the username and the password. And click sign in. As you can see, there is an issue with displaying tabs on the top. We should probably move it at the bottom. We will fix it later. But we have our tabs working, and in general, application is working. So what we will need to do here is to check if the push is working. So basically, that can be done if we will go back to the console and type mfp console. So first of all, in the push notification section, we should see our push event source that we just declared, and one active user. As you can see, actually this user has been subscribed. Alternative way is actually to look for more tools, inspect devices, and check for logs on device from there, or check for logs from Logcat in case of Android. But we have our push working. What does it mean? It means that if we will try to close our application, I will remove it from memory and call the adapter. So for example, let's open our terminal, navigate to a server-side project. So in our case, it's hybrid wallet server, just like that, and type mfp call adapter. Sorry, of course, mfp adapter call rather than call adapter. We should be able to select this wallet adapter, and now we should be able to select the submit notification as the endpoint that we are trying to call, and we need to provide the parameters. As you remember, the first one is the username that we need to put, and actually by this user it will find a subscription. So in our case the user is user, and then we need to submit the notification itself. Let's type something like hello from MFP server, just like that, and click enter. The method in our case will be get, so just click enter, and let's wait for this to happen. So as you can see, notification sent to user is successful true. What this means, if we'll open our emulator once again, we should be able to see that we received one notification from this application that we just installed saying hello from MFP server. So basically that's it. This is the way how it's working. Then basically this submit notification can be secured with additional security test if you want, and it should be called by a backend when you need to submit notification. So just user ID that you define by yourself, and then basically the notification. Because when you're doing the authentication, you can submit additional parameters, I mean attributes that can be fully custom. You can even, instead of sending user ID, send some kind of attribute and then compare it to the user identity, and so what you have inside, find for important user and send notification from there. So basically that's it. On this step our lab number 248 is finished. So thank you.